X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
Hear me, listeners! No longer am I the co-host you once knew. I am fire and life incarnate, now and forever! I am Adam!
And I'm Zach. And Adam, I'm so glad to have you back. I know you were down in a cocoon in Jamaica Bay, but now you're here.
I'm not even a fan of snorkeling, really, so it's been uncomfortable. So I am, just as you are, very glad to be back. And I guess there's a bunch of people I should really thank because you've had some really amazing co-hosts.
We have had a lot of really fun people joining the show in your absence, and I cannot thank them enough. It's been a blast. And I'm so glad you're back, though, because as great as they are, and they include some of my favorite people in the world. This podcast is a joint project between you and me, who were goofing off on Twitter one day and saying we should do this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you've had so many people named Chris on, or Christy, that you should have named it A to C, or, I don't know, but Charlie, Sarah, Miles, Chris Christie, Matt, Chris Hassan, Chris Robinson, Alex Goldman, thank you for filling in. I greatly appreciate it. And, of course, Zach, thank you for carrying on the show.
I mean, look, I was going to do the show without you or with you. It didn't matter. I like doing this, and I have the password to the podcast hosting site, and you don't, because I had already had it set up.
That is true. And I feel like we've picked a good week. Like if I came back last week, I probably would have liked the Glob episode, but I'm glad we're jumping in with a Rogue and Gambit episode. I love them.
We are. And we're jumping in with a Rogue and Gambit episode thanks to Patreon supporter Appleja.
Appleja.
Possibly Apple J. I can't be sure. There is no space. So I think it's Appleja.
How do you feel about the cereal Apple Jacks?
Feel like, well, here's the thing. I'm not really much of a cereal guy anymore in my life.
Okay, fair.
I remember liking Apple Jacks, but when I have cereal, Raisin Bran is about as funky as I'll get.
That is not very funky.
It's not funky at all. I'm more of a coffee and eggs kind of guy. Like, I'll fry up an egg. Give me some sunny side up with a little bit of that toast, and that's all I want in life is coffee and eggs.
Are Apple Jacks one of those cereals that cut up the roof of your mouth, like they're made of fiberglass, or is that just Captain Crunch? I'm getting off on a tangent. I'm sorry. You were saying. Well, Appleja brought us this wonderful Gambit and Rogues episode.
Appleja did bring us this wonderful Gambit and Rogue episode because Appleja went over to Patreon.com, found Battle of the Atom, and said, "Guys, here's my gift to you. It's my support, and please talk about this couple that I really like." And the story that Apple just said, please handcraft an episode around this story was Gambit by James Asmus. They selected, I think, issue 10, but we decided to take the whole arc around it, going with issue 9 through 12, Tombstone Blues.
Yeah, Tombstone referring to the classic Spider-Man villain. Was not expecting to see him here.
I was not. As a sidebar, did you know I started reading Spider-Man and it's good?
Oh, I've been waiting for you to do that as a Spider-Man fan, and it's been fun watching your reactions on Twitter because that run is something else. It's so good.
Here's the thing. Silver Age X-Men is so bad and boring that it threw me off of the entire Silver Age for a hot second, and I was like, I know that some of these are classic stories, but I'm just not into it. But Amazing Spider-Man has Stan Lee and Steve Ditko doing bits and goofs the whole time.
It's so
they're
good.
in on it.
Yes.
It's incredible. Spider-Man does not appear in this comic by James Asmus. Clayman does the bulk of the arc with Paco Medina, Dexter Soy, and Leonard Kirk jumping in to help out a little bit later. And Adam, why don't you do the honors in telling our listeners what happens in this one?
Well, Gambit begins, he's in search of a woman named Joelle and follows her to a supervillain-friendly nightclub where clothing is certainly somewhat optional.
Are we talking about the nightclub with no name? The upgraded version of the bar with no name?
Yes, the club with no name. And there is a lot of skin here and a lot of supervillains trying to pick people up, including members of AIM. Who else is here? Batroc.
You got the Serpent Society. Batroc Zilipa is there. Boomerang's here. Ruby Thursday's here. Titania's here. And the Wrecking Crew. We got some Wrecking Crew guys. Lady Stoatman does make an appearance. It's quite a group.
Yeah, and it's played very straight. It's not like an Uncanny Avengers where they turned the Avengers Mansion into a role-playing hotel. This is no, this is for real, and these guys are trying to pick up girls. And Tombstone's just chilling in what I guess this used to be a bank?
Sure.
Okay. So, Joelle... I'm not too familiar with Joelle.
She's a very new character exclusive to this run. She was the Bond girl for the first arc of this. I don't want to bring her down to just describing her as the girl, but she's the James Bond girl. She is the flirty love interest of Gambit who has her own agenda.
That's pretty much what's going on here. She's also, is she immortal? She's trying to save...
She's trying to save her daughter.
Her daughter, who's an old woman.
Yeah, I will tell you that this is probably not the best plotted thing in the world, but essentially, Joelle made a deal with the devil that she would live forever, and then she got really tired of that because she now has to watch everyone she loves die, including her daughter, who dies as an old woman because it's been a long time.
Oh, okay. That was a little unclear to me. But she's definitely in search of some way to save her kid, and that involves trying to find some mystery fountain of youth from Baron von Zemo? Or no, Strucker's.
It's it's from Strucker. But it's not actually a fountain of youth. It's actually like this nanobot cloud thing that will eat through anything and disintegrate anything because all she wants to do is die.
Yeah, okay. But why not just cut her life support? Why go through all this trouble if it's...
Because she wants to die. Because Joelle also wants to die, which is why she gets eaten by the nanobots at the end.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Again, the plot in this, not the best laid out.
Well, and that's fine because what is fun about this, I did enjoy this quite a bit. It is kind of like a Bond movie, We have the club scene, we have the criminal, Tombstone is getting involved in this. Then they have to break into Strucker's old lab, and then there's kind of henchmen zombies after them. There's a snowy sex scene. There's... and then Rogue shows up.
Rogue shows up right after that. They're broken up at the time. Rogue is with those uncanny Avengers. And her and Gambit have a real heart-to-heart in issue 11, just talking about their relationship and what they mean to each other and how Rogue just wants to make sure he's safe, even though he's kind of, I'd say going off the rails, but he's just doing Gambit stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he's getting his criminal record back up and running, and Rogue's just kind of checking in. I can't quite tell whether Gambit's appreciative of that or if he just wants to keep going on with his Joelle side mission, but it is a nice little back and forth with them.
It is good. I will say... You're right. It's kind of like an action movie setup. There's a big ending where everything happens. The art in this is fabulous. Clayman he's doing an incredible job here.
Oh, I love Clayman's stuff here. I think it's really cool. And it fits the genre, there's this, even the finale involves just like an action movie. There's a helicopter involved. involved. Like it really does sell that.
And look, Clayman is a sexy artist. He does that, but especially in this, he's very much an equal opportunity cheesecake artist in that he tries to make Gambit look as hot as possible.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, like, he's just got the right vibe for this. This is a book about beautiful people doing crimes and escapades, and Clayman is the absolute right artist for it. It looks great. He does some real emotive stuff, especially in that issue 11 between Rogue and Gambit. It's a good one. I'm not overly fond of this run, but I understand why people do enjoy it.
Yeah, I like the way that Tombstone is portrayed here as sort of this like muscly supervillain guy, which is not like typically how I think of him.
You don't think of Lonnie Lincoln as having big muscles?
I don't
know. I had a Tombstone action figure. As a kid.
Really?
From Spider-Man the Animated Series. Yeah, and Tombstone in there had bulging biceps that if you press the button on his back, he would flex more. So, yes, I always think of Tombstone as ripped.
I always think of him as extremely tall and like kind of Silver Agey. Maybe I'm just too caught up on his original incarnation. But the only thing I took a little bit of issue here with is that like Rogue kind of seems a little bit not like she's not depowered, but doesn't seem as rogue as she usually is. You know, like she gets taken out both by Joel and by a henchman within a couple of pages, and it just seems uncharacteristic, shall we say, as to how invulnerable she typically is.
Yeah, it's probably not the best Rogue story, but I tend to like it in general. I think it's a fun little tale.
It is. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Now, geez, man, I'm looking at this list and I'm a little confused. There's Onslaught on here now.
Oh yeah, you missed all of Onslaught. That's the one that you didn't have to do. So be happy about that one. We have how many stories? How many stories do we have on this list?
324 now? I think when I left, it was at 303. So there's a good 21 stories here that I am not sure what they are.
Well, that's fine. Because we on this show, we do rank every X-Men story from A to Z. And also from best to worst. Honestly, more from best to worst. I feel like you guys can handle the A to Z part yourself. We'll handle best to worst. Number 1 is the Dark Phoenix Saga. This is just as much for you, Adam, as it is for our listeners. Number 50 is Storm and Ileana Magic. Number 100 is Generation X 18 and 19, For the Sake of the Children. 150 is X-Men Endangered Species. 200 is Spider-Man and the X-Men, numbers 4 and 5, the time they had a science fair fight and went into space. 250 is Ultimate X-Men, The Tempest, which is, of course, the story with the stairs. Number 300 is Wolverine, 98 to 100, Furnace of His Mind, Anvil of His Heart. And 324 is the Draco. It's bad. This is better than some of those, not better than all of them. Probably better than Stairs.
Yeah, this is fun. But I don't know if I would call it like a huge classic. I don't know. For whatever reason, I was scrolling up the list and saw Colossus Bloodline at 258. Is this better than that?
I think it's better than Bloodline.
Okay. How about the first arc of Extraordinary X-Men?
Oh, I like this better than that. How do you feel about it compared to a little farther up the list at 242, Daken, Dark Wolverine, Moonwalking?
That's a good comparison. They're very similar in terms of kind of like wanting to tell an action story, though that one's a little bit more of a detective story, or it wants to be. Mm-hmm. So, but I like this better.
What about X-23 4-7, Songs of the Orphan Child?
That is also a real fun Gambit story, but I think,
That one's got good Sana Tanaka art.
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely like it better than what's below that, which is the Girl School from Heck run of Excalibur, that arc. And I don't think I like it as much as Bishop's Crossing at 233.
Well, then let's slide it in right below that X-23 story.
Great. I think that's a good place to put it.
Good, because it's now at 235, Tombstone Blues.
Tombstone Blues.
All right, next on our list is a story that I picked because I know there's like one page that Rogue and Gambit people really like. Also, I want to do an aside here. May I do an aside?
Please do. Is this a Zach's Hot Take Corner, or are we just doing
This is, in fact, a cold take.
Oh, okay. Chili
This
take.
This is me taking what I believe people have lit their torches and set ablaze to say, this is one of Zach's hot takes. And instead, I am taking a cold bucket of water and tossing it over and saying, hold on, guys, because this may shock some of you. I like Bishop. And I like Gambit. I get them confused a lot. I do like Gambit, though. He's very easy to make fun of, and it's really fun to make fun of him. Because he's ridiculous.
Okay.
But I do like Gambit. I think he's neat.
No problem with Gambit. I like the Gambit. Yeah, that's not really a hot take. I mean...
It's not. People think I hate Gambit, I think.
Oh, really?
I think so. People think I hate Gambit because I make fun of Gambit. And look, guys, he wears a head sock and hot pink armor and fingerless gloves to go be a thief. He buys so many packs of cars that he keeps the bicycle company, up and running. He has the world's worst accent because it's not actually a Cajun accent. And I know a friend of the show, Tom Cummins, would fight about how true that is. He just talks like this, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not you with Gambit. Gambit, he gonna wash all your trouble away.
Here's what I will say about Gambit.
What are you gonna say about Gambit?
And we'll probably talk about this a little bit more with the third story, but I like Gambit so much more as a couple with Rogue. Or as a foil to Rogue, or as a foil to somebody else. Like when Gambit and Deadpool have a miniseries. I like that. Like Gambit works a lot less for me as a solo character. But when he is a counterpoint to the team, or he's with another like close character, I'm very, very much on board for Gambit.
Will throw an
go ahead.
Actual hot take about Gambit's family, I guess, or a thing I hate. The Thieves Guild is dumb, and all the mythology around it is dumb, and people stop doing Thieves Guild stories. No one likes them.
I did appreciate that in that last story we just did, they did like name drop the Thieves Guild, and there's like a guy watching the door who's like, oh snap, he's in a Thieves Guild. Like,
at gotta the let end you of that in. Run. Here's the thing. The Gambit thing is pretty good, but at the end of that run, Asmus has Gambit become king of the Thieves Guild.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's just this whole thing about, here's this ancient thing about the Thieves Guild. And guys, I'm done with the Thieves Guild.
Yeah, I was done with it in the Gambit miniseries. I mean, the potions and all that stuff, we really don't need it at all.
Well, the Top Collector's going to get you, Adam.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff was fun when they introduced it to a certain extent, but it is played out. So this next story is about as far removed from the Thieves Guild as we can get, because this is the aftermath to Age of X. This is not an Age of X-Man update, to my knowledge.
Aw, no, he's not in this one. He's not. I got excited. No, but you're right. This is X-Men Legacy 248 to 249, Age of X Aftermath. The Age of X was Mike Carey's big alternate reality story. It's actually pretty darn good. I'm excited to eventually come back to it for this show. Mm-hmm. Mike Carey's pretty good, guys. There was actually a bunch of discourse about Mike Carey on the internet today because we were talking about stuff, and I like Mike Carey a lot. I think there are some flaws with his X-Men Legacy run as a whole, but individual units like this two-piece story here, I think, really works. The first issue is drawn by Jorge Molina, and the second by Rafa Sandoval. And this is... everyone has a lot of bad trauma from the Age of X. And what do they do with that trauma, Adam?
Before we talk about this, wouldn't it be cool if there was like an Age of X-Men aftermath? Like, I would love to see an Aftershock issue where we deal with like Jean-Luc, or any of the other things. Because basically what Age of X Aftermath is all of these characters confronting what their different personality was within the Age of X construct, which is kind of complicated. It's built by a Moira who was built by Legion, kind of.
Yeah, it's built by one of Legion's personalities,
right,
to make Legion the hero and make him feel better about himself. Because David Haller had a rough upbringing and a rough going as a comic book character, which we can all agree about.
Oh yeah. But he seems pretty with it here. The problem is that these characters have gone through a lifetime over the course of just 7 days. One of whom I thought, interestingly enough, was Cannonball, who Mike Carey does this to twice, because he does it with Serafina during Children of the Vault as well.
He does. Serafina, who is in X-Men comics again.
So all these characters are kind of dealing with the repercussions of what they were. This is, of course, when Frenzy and Cyclops have been in a very long-term relationship and are kind of dealing with the fallout of that, because Cyclops is
in the alternate reality.
Yes. But Cyclops is not interested. Frenzy is like, oh, I was into that. And Frenzy's great here.
Yeah, Joanna Cargill wasn't a character until this, and then she super was, and I'm so into it. Carrie's run does tend to, especially after Age of X, kind of peter off into some weird stuff, where he's a little directionless, but I think the work he does with Frenzy is great. In this issue, she confronts that she doesn't want to just be this enforcer for the Acolytes or the Axis of Evil or whatever their team name was, the bad team name they had. She wants to do something good and be like the fighter and the hero that she was in the Age of X.
Yeah.
So she changes that, and I think that's really good. We also we get a lot from a lot of different characters, many of who decide they don't want to remember anything from Age of X, many of who don't want to remember specifics. You get a lot of that, but I think the big reason we touched on this is because of the main character of these two stories, at least, is Rogue. And Rogue is probably more of a sounding board in these issues, especially because she has to decide between Gambit and Magneto.
Oh boy.
We got a love triangle situation going on here.
Not Joseph? I'm just kidding.
You missed all the Joseph content while you were gone.
Well, we've seen, I think we've talked on the show about at least my distaste for the Rogue Magneto ship. That doesn't do a lot for me, and
here's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that Age of Apocalypse was really good, and everyone wants to keep doing Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, so in Age of X, they were a couple again. And so Gambit has this great sort of, hey, I'm here for you when you're ready kind of statement, which is just glorious. I think you posted this page to Twitter a couple days ago.
Yeah, I like it. It's people in the Rogue and Gambit shipping fandom call it the harbor speech.
The harbor speech. Oh, okay.
Yeah, look, Mike Carey writes a good speech, and I think it works specifically for Gambit and Rogue's relationship because their relationship has been built on neither one of them saying what the other person knows they're thinking and how they're really feeling. So Gambit opening up and saying, Rogue, if you're not going to open up to me, I know you well enough to know that this is what's going on with you because we've been in a long-term relationship for years and we've gone through some really weird stuff together. So I'm just going to say, I don't know where you are right now. You obviously don't seem to be into me the way I'm into you. You've got your own stuff to work out with your powers and all this stuff from your memories from Age of X. And, you go sort that out.
Yeah.
And, like, he's mad because Rogue's not choosing him in that moment, but he's also saying, I still love you, and I'm going, like, I can't change how I feel, so I'm going to be here for you.
Right. He's ready to commit when she's ready to commit, and it's great. There's some other stuff in this issue with Legion and a very strange thing with Rachel, but
she was lost in space for a while. They go and find her later.
But we've got to talk about the second half of these two issues because Rogue decides to take a vacation trip with Magneto to Auschwitz. Oh boy.
Yeah, Magneto does his backstory stuff with Rogue. Magneto does kill some Nazis or get some Nazis to kill themselves in his backstory, which is always delightful. Carey gives the backstory of Magneto here an appropriate weight. I think he does a very good job selling that this was a horrific thing that he went through and that this is a big reason why Magneto is, the way he is.
I think it's a very cool little picture into little window into Magneto's past. I have no issue with that. The one thing that doesn't quite ring true for me here is that Magneto is trying to use this as some sort of, I don't know, like a lesson that needs to be told to Gambit for some reason. Like he's telling it to Rogue and saying that if Gambit can't accept Rogue's dark past, that she should tell him this story about how he killed a Nazi. And I'm like, well, first of all, Gambit's already ready to accept Rogue for who she is. And then why would you tell this story? It doesn't make any sense.
It's a weird story to tell in the way that Magneto is trying to use it. I would agree. I think it works as a story about Magneto. I don't think it works in the way that they're trying to make it work, but it doesn't much matter because he just they end up saying, "Hey, we're going to be a couple now."
Well, at least for the end of this issue, it's implied that it's maybe a one-night stand, but
it's not.
I know it's not. It does continue on, which I just can't get behind. I just don't. It doesn't do anything for me.
It's not the best. I don't love it. I don't ship Magneto with anyone but Vengeance.
Anyone but Metal.
I like to think that Magneto has a platonic relationship with Metal because I think it's weird otherwise.
Yeah, I never understand the thing. I get it in Age of Apocalypse. I guess I got it during the Jim Lee Savage Land stuff, but beyond that, just stop doing it, Do
you think Magneto's romantically involved with Copper?
Hey, he may have different engagements with different kinds of metal. You just don't know. This could be an entire elemental chart of one night stands. Who knows?
I mean, he's got a lot of attraction. I understand. Real magnetic personality there. Anyway, this is a fun little quiet arc between big events. You get before this, obviously, Age of X. And then after this is the 250th issue of X-Men Legacy, which is really X-Men Volume 2, like the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont relaunched one. So kind of a big moment for them. So I'm glad they took a couple issues to slow it down.
Yeah, I don't think we've reviewed other X-Men Legacy on here before, and I don't...
Oh, yes, we have.
No, that's what I said. We have. I don't think this is as good as those.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. How do you feel about it compared to Tombstone Blues?
I think it's better than that. We definitely have some really great character moments here, but I don't know that I'm willing to go too high here.
Is it better or worse than Uncanny X-Men Quarantine, where everyone gets sick and they stab?
Whew. That had some fun stuff in it, but I think this is better.
Is it... Actually, Is it better than Astonishing X-Men, the North Star Wedding arc?
What number do we have that at? I want to know where.
That's at 205 right now.
205. Well, I do think it's better than Phalanx Covenant Final Sanction, which is above that at 204. So, but I don't think it's better than 202, which is the Joe Mad Cannonball Fights Gladiator and then some space stuff arc of Uncanny.
Yeah, where Rogue and Joseph make out.
Yes, but I do think it's better than the X-Men Gold one-shot.
Perfect. We did it. We remembered how to rank things. It's at 203.
Excellent. And hey, we got all that relationship stuff in, and now we get to talk about some committed, consenting adults.
Let's talk about marriage. Because we've already talked about Rogue and Gambit, the miniseries by Kelly Thompson and Pere Perez, which we love. So we're going to talk about its follow-up, Mr. and Mrs. X.
Remember when people thought this was going to be about Kitty and Colossus for a hot second?
No one thought it was going to be about Kitty and Colossus for a hot second. And here's why, Adam. Here's why.
Please.
Because until X-Men Gold number 30 came out, or at least the Monday when shops got their copies and everything got spoiled, Mr. and Mrs. X was solicited as X-Men Classified and didn't tell you anything about anyone involved in it. So there was all this big stuff about how it might be a relaunch of Uncanny or all these other big, wild, and crazy ideas. And it made retailers mad. And if they would have just solicited it as Mr. and Mrs. X and maybe come up with a couple of fake covers that they could have sold as variants anyway, we wouldn't have this problem. But instead, it was a secret.
Yeah, and I understand why retailers would be pissed at that, because how do you sell something that doesn't even have a cover? You know, it's just this white thing that it didn't even have a title.
Didn't even have a creative team.
No.
You couldn't peg it to anything.
No, and I think that if you had said Kelly Thompson is going to be writing this book, that even just that would have probably done this series a big favor.
It at least tells you who the audience is.
Yeah.
Especially in 2018, where Kelly was not doing Deadpool and whatever else she's got going on. What book just got announced for her?
Isn't she doing Black Widow in advance of the movie?
Black Widow, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, like she's not big name or bigger name Kelly Thompson. She's still pretty small name Kelly Thompson. And this story's interesting. Oscar Bazaldua does the art on this one.
He's very good.
He's very good, but there's a handful of things in the first issue, especially in the wedding scene, where Rogue and Mystique have super baby faces, and it's the only thing I can think of when I think of his art, and it really bothers me. I know he's talented, and he shows that talent throughout this, but I keep thinking of those just couple of panels. They haunt me.
Well, it does kind of work for the way he draws Cerise and then later Xandra in this arc. I just be frank, I loved this series. I really did. Especially the first 5 or 6 issues of this, where with the first arc with TechNet and the Imperial Guard, Deadpool is here. And we're not talking about issue 6 where they have their apartment party, but I absolutely love that issue too.
Here's for me, I don't like Mr. and Mrs. X on the whole a ton.
Because?
It's odd. Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I really enjoyed Rogue and Gambit by Kelly Thompson. I thought it was a fabulous series. I think we have it. Is it still in the top 50 or did it slide out? No, it's at 47 on our list right now.
Yeah.
It's a really friggin' good story. I love it. I thought that one was, while not high stakes in terms of plot, had a lot of emotional depth that I don't think Mr. and Mrs. X had. This arc feels odd to me because it starts out with the aftermath of their wedding, which is cool, and we get to see some of that. We get to see some of that emotion happen, but then they get thrown right into this weird space story involving the Shi'ar, and TechNet show up for a hot second. The Imperial Guard are there. The Starjammers are there. Deadpool is here for Lord only knows why Deadpool
Hold on
is
a
here.
sec. Deadpool is there because we're following up on what was a really nice little nod to the Uncanny Avengers run by Jerry Dugan when Rogue and Deadpool hooked up.
Sure, yes, they kissed once.
Yes.
And it was a whole thing. I didn't need 3 issues of Deadpool inserting himself into Rogue and Gambit's relationship in the story that is right about, hey, this is Rogue and Gambit as a married couple now. Maybe let's focus on that for a hot second. Instead, we get all of this weird Marvel Universe stuff, and I think it's 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag, and it does not fit for me.
Wow.
I think Xandra's a nice idea.
Wow.
I know. I feel bad about saying it,
I
too.
was not expecting this take from you, Zach, because this is so...
I bet if you go through, and I'm going to do this, I bet if you go through my Twitter history, I was not as kind to this book as everyone else.
Wow. I'm going to go... We see this so differently because I realize that we have had the emotional heft of the Rogue and Gambit mini. We've had, literally decades of published story of tension between the two of these guys. And yet what's great about this, at least for me, is we're going to have some fun space hijinks. And those space hijinks are going to involve a really wacky, group of characters. It's drawn beautifully by Oscar Bazaldua. That issue 3, there is this amazing actually I think it's a 4-page sequence of Gambit and Deadpool just taking out henchmen. I mean, there's so much great fun stuff to be had here. The story centers around, I don't think we really got into this, is that Rogue and Gambit are really just trying to go into space and have some quiet honeymoon time. Kitty Pryde sends them on a mission to find this egg, which turns out to be Lilandra and Xavier's child.
Yeah, I like Xandra. I like that Xandra is a part of current continuity.
Yeah, Xandra's back in New Mutants.
Yeah, it's good, and I like it. I did look up in my note on Mr. and Mrs. X number 5 was Mr. and Mrs. X number 5 wrapped up its first arc, and it was fine, but it suffers when compared to Rogue and Gambit earlier this year. Kelly had the voices down, but the plot didn't do anything for me, and I'm not loving this new development for Rogue. Hope the next story hooks me more. Oh yeah, Rogue doesn't have her touch powers at the end of this story. She absorbs people just randomly. I don't like it.
Well, hold on a sec.
That's dumb, okay? I love Kelly. Kelly's a great writer. That evolution of Rogue's power is dumb.
But that's not the point of it, though. The point of it is that we've finally gotten this happy ending for these two characters, and yet she is stuck wearing this power dampening collar, which doesn't let her freely be as part of the world and part of this relationship that she would like it to be. Sure, it allows them to do the thing that's been stopping them from connecting since day one, which is the physical contact. But
yeah, they do go to Bone Town frequently in this comic.
Yeah, but the big culminating moment on the last page of this is that because of what happens in this story, she has to put that collar back on. And that collar could be symbolic of so many different things that could be an obstacle in anybody's relationships. You know what I mean? And I just think that Kelly is smart enough to pull this off. I remember...
Do you know what I feel like it's symbolic of?
Yeah, go ahead.
The fact that in the 90s we couldn't just end a plot point. We had to keep going to it over and over and over and over and over again, like Rogue not being able to control her powers, and I'm so tired of it.
I guess I
just am.
I don't have the same problem with this because I'm reading these issues and just having a really good time. I'm enjoying the fact that these characters are allowed to, for the most part, go and have some silly fun. Even though neither of them are like, they're both just annoyed that they don't get to go on their honeymoon. You know, I think I've talked about this on the show before, but I like when there are stories that, and I love the way that Teeny is handling this in Excalibur.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that because I do want to get back to that point, but keep going.
Yeah, I want there to be, and this is the Peter Parker, Mary Jane argument, right? Is that let's let these characters be together and see what kind of, you know, not necessarily domestic bliss or whatever, but let that be instead of a will they, won't they that has to like, you know, continue on forever. Let it be something and see where it goes.
Yes, let it develop into things that aren't just repeating things like Rogue not being able to control her powers. I agree, Adam.
Oh, boy. All right.
No, I like this. We haven't fought even before this in a while, so this is, you guys are getting some primo content.
I am just kind of surprised, honestly. You know, like I guess I shouldn't be.
I've got the receipts. I just pulled them up.
Yeah. I know if I go back to that same time, I'm probably glowing about this because the way it's laid out.
I think you were.
The Jim Lee homage with the Starjammers and the Imperial Guard fighting in outer space. I just think there's so much fun to be had here. And given the kind of like slog that we had been through with X-Men Gold and the confusion editorially of what was going on with X-Men Blue, this was a breath of fresh air. Do I think it's as good as Rogue and Gambit? No. But it's certainly a good time at the comics. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I really do. Here's kind of where I had the problem because I reread this for the show pretty much right after I read the latest issue of Excalibur by Teeny and Marcus Toe.
Me too.
Yeah, and I get we have different perspectives, but in that story, Gambit and Rogue have a frank conversation about like real marital and adult challenges and issues, and I feel like it's a conversation that did progress them as a couple and did what I wanted out of a book like this. It did the same kind of stuff that Kelly did with Rogue and Gambit, the miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get that from Mr. and Mrs. X. I didn't get what I wanted from this comic. And that may be what I brought to the comic instead of what the comic gave to me. And we were mismatched, and that's fine. But for me, this didn't work as well. I also super hated all of the teases in this about how they were going, you know, kids and just having a kid. And even with the Xandra stuff, which is obviously supposed to be alluding to the fact that, well, they just got married. What's next?
Right.
Like, give them a second to breathe, folks. They literally got married in the first issue of this. Maybe they can go 2 issues without bringing up kids.
Hey.
What are you, my mother?
Hey, what? What did they do in Excalibur with Make More Mutants from issue 1? It's the same kind of conflict. And I think
Okay. Yes, I'm
right?
going to let you finish, but yes. I think, yes, very similar, except for that conflict in Excalibur is set up for the payoff later, where Rogue and Gambit do have that frank adult conversation about family planning and what they want out of it, where in here it was just little teases about let's have a kid because we just got married, and I hate that. As a younger parent, I guess at this point, I've got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, I hated having to hear for years of, oh, when are you guys going to have a kid? When are you guys going to have a kid? When are you guys going to have a kid? We're getting real deep into Zach's personal annoyances here, and I think that's a bad energy. Let's turn this around. Adam, any final thoughts for Mr. and Mrs. X, a comic that we may have the widest gulf on opinions
I know, I'm
between
shocked.
you and me, And even I don't actually dislike this comic. I just don't like it as much as other people did.
Here's what I'm gonna say:
I don't hate this at all.
Is Teeny handling the subject matter better? Yes. Is this book still a lot of fun, and I liked it a lot, and I bought every issue of it in floppies because of it? Yes. Those two things can be true at the same time. So
I agree, but we have to compare everything.
I know.
That's what we set up for.
All right, so where's this going?
Do you like this better or worse than 140, the Rogue miniseries?
Personally, I like this better. I think as great as the Rogue Mini is with the Ringo art, I'm in love with the art in this book, and I think it's more fun. But I don't think I could put it much higher than that. I mean, 'Twas the Night Before is right at 138.
Yeah, I would have to go a little lower than the Rogue Mini myself.
Yeah.
Like, while you were gone, we covered the Shatterstar series. Charlie Davis and I did.
Yep.
And in a very same way that the Shatterstar series was a series that Charlie loves to death, from right around the same time, and that just didn't hit with me as much. I feel the same way about Mr. and Mrs. X, especially that first arc. I would probably say it's better than, probably objectively better than the Bishop miniseries. That's just a few spots down.
I would agree, but I don't think it's as good as the Generation Next arc of Phalanx Covenant.
Okay, then we can put it between there. I think that's a good compromising position.
I like that.
That's within 10 of where you wanted.
But that's fine. I think that's a very good place for it right there at 148.
Guys, Adam and me are still friends. We just disagree with this one specific comic.
That's the joy of the show.
It is. And do you know what else has been joyful, Adam?
What's that?
That we did an episode again.
Hooray!
We remembered. We can podcast.
I was really worried I would not remember my lines, and here we are. We made it through.
No, you hit all your marks. It was great. We did all our goofs. We had that big fight scene planned out, and I think both of us really hit our emotional arcs really strongly in that. And that's good. That's what you get from this high-quality scripted content from the Xavier Files Media Empire, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoy it a ton, you can go over to Battle of the Atom, our Patreon page. Go find it. It's in the notes. You know where it's at, fools. And then throw money our way. We actually revamped the Patreon structure because you guys Patreon too good, and then we broke it on accident, kind of. Y'all had too many people wanting to go too frequently, and then we broke it. So instead, at the $2 a month level, no changes. At the $10 and $25 a month level, no changes, because like not as many of you guys were cashing out that kind of money, and that's fine. If you would like to, please go ahead. Let me know. Up your pledge. It's fine. If not, just keep enjoying this content that we provide. But at the $5 level and above, you get early access to the show, which means when I am done editing it, whenever that is in the week, you get it. The last episode was late, so you didn't get it early, but that's fine. You got it literally as fast as I could put it up.
They lived.
Everyone lived. This one will go out sooner to your eardrums. And you get access to make requests to fill in episodes, because sometimes me and Adam are like, I don't know how to handcraft this one. I'm struggling. I need a support, and that support comes from you guys on Patreon. It's fun. We've gotten some really good suggestions from this. Mr. and Mrs. X from this was a request from that Patreon pool.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Or if you can't support monetarily, leave us a rating or a review on iTunes, and then maybe tell a friend. That's all I've got. Adam, what are you up to?
I just finished mailing out the Bish and Jubes trade paperbacks and all the rewards, so that was really exciting. And I guess now I have to start working on something new. So we'll see what that is.
Very exciting. I got my package. It was so sweet. I was so happy. So excited about it.
I saw your live reveal on Twitter. That was really fun.
I got to show my 4-year-old the Grimlock card, and he's like, "From Transformers?" And I said, "Yup."
I'm glad those are bringing joy to people.
Grimlock's the only He knows Grimlock. He knows Optimus. He knows Megatron. He knows Bumblebee.
Those are the important
That's
ones.
it.
guy.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, Adam, I like Transformers now.
Dude, there's a couple things that have
it.
happened since I
You
was
missed
gone.
it.
One, you got really into IDW Transformers, and I'm like, damn, I need to do that.
It's good.
And
Adam, it's all really good.
People keep telling me this. So how are you doing it?
I know.
How are you reading it?
I had a Humble Bundle.
Oh, the
I had a
Humble Bundle that I missed.
I had that from a while ago. I love Whirl. Whirl's my favorite Transformer.
I don't know who that is. I feel guilty.
Whirl, he's a helicopter.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's a former member of the Wreckers. And in IDW continuity, when Megatron, the miner from Tarn, was in jail for getting involved in a bar fight, even though he was just trying to stop things, the council sent Whirl to rough him up. The council being the Senate of Cybertron, which was corrupt because Magneto of Tarn was writing a manifesto against functionalism, that being that Cybertronians were only supposed to do the job that their alternate form would provide them from doing. Anyway, that radicalized Magneto. Or not Magneto, excuse me, Megatron. They're very similar in this one. That radicalized Megatron, which then radicalized the young Orion Pax, who after Megatron got there was an assassination attempt on Orion Pax for persecuting Whirl, did go to the Senate and ask the 3 questions that his friend Megatron says you should ask of any government.
This is exciting. All right, I got to get on this train with you. The other thing that happened is like the Xavier Files media empire has grown like exponentially since I've been gone.
Oh, we do stuff that's not X-Men now.
I know, it's
guys.
wild.
We talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor. I wrote a short thing about Venom last week because I wanted to. We have an entire article that's just, hey guys, do you want to write about this other comic that you didn't get a chance to write about in our standard columns? It's great. This week, as you are listening to this, we will have just put out 9 articles, which I think is a one-day record for us.
Yeah.
It might be over 2 days, including the fabulous Doctor Strange: The End. And the really fun Weapons Plus World War IV, which I loved. Brute Force is in that one.
Brute Force and Manslaughter, right?
Yeah. Manslaughter. If you haven't read it yet, Adam, Manslaughter just does Annihilation, like the movie Annihilation.
I got to check that out. He just does
the movie Annihilation.
That's perfect.
But he's a man thing.
I love it.
It's great. All that stuff's at XavierFiles.com. You can also follow my Twitter at XavierFiles.
Yep, and you can follow me at Arthur Stacy. What are we doing next week?
Next week, we are going to talk about... What are we doing next week, Adam? I actually closed
I think we're talking about Iceman.
Are we talking about Iceman next week? I guess we're talking about Iceman next week. Next week, we're going to talk about Iceman, guys. But until then, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!